comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright.
All right, here we go. Today we're going to do some solving square roots. That was a little preview of Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, a great song for the song of the day today. Today we're talking about solving square roots or solving equations involving square roots. Oh, it's just a great day today. I'm so stoked to do some square roots. All right, so there's 4 steps in doing this. All right, first step is you want to isolate your square root. Second step, in order to get rid of a square root, I need to use its inverse operation. I need to square both sides. All right. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, just solve for the variable. And 4, we need to check for extraneous solutions, so we need to plug our answer back in to make sure that it works. Okay. Well, if you look at number A in parts A and B, step 1 is already done for us. All right. The square root is already isolated, so all I'm going to do here is square both sides. Okay. So I know that 3 squared is 9, and when I square this square root, it cancels out, and I get b minus 1. Add the 1 to both sides, b equals 10. Now, like I said, we solved it. All right, our last step is to check for extraneous solutions, so I'm going to plug it back in. Now, you can do this part in your head. All right, I'm just going to show the work on what I'm actually doing. So I'm taking this 3 equals the square root of 10 minus 1. Well, 10 minus 1 I know is 9, and the square root of 9 is 3, so that checks out. All right, let's try a second one. Check for extraneous solutions. Okay, why don't you pause the video now and try this one yourself. Go for it. All right, so I got r to be 28, and that does check out. Plug it back in. 28 minus 3 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. Okay. Let's go to one where there's a square root on both sides. Well, if there's a square root on both sides, all right, they're obviously both isolated. Okay. So when that's the case, I'll just square both sides right away and then solve the equation. 2m minus 6 equals 3m minus 14. Okay. Okay. Add 14, subtract 2. 14, negative 6 plus 14. Well, you guessed it. It's 8. And then 8 is m. Again, you want to check to make sure that it works. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 minus 6 is 10. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 minus 14 is 10. It checks out. M is 8. Whoa. Here we go. We are cruising today. Let's go to part D. Here we go. So I'm going to square both sides. It's my square root is isolated. I'll get 56 minus r equals r squared. Wow. Wow. Wow, let's keep going. So I have an r squared. I can't just take the square root of both sides because I'll be right back where I started. So I'm going to have to move everything to the same side as my r squared and factor. So I'll have 0 equals r squared plus r minus 56. Well, what 2 numbers multiply to 56 and add to give me 1? You guessed it, r plus 8 and r minus 7. Yo, that's a 7, people. Let's try that one more time. 7. Wow. Wowee. Stop having so much fun, because I'm having so much fun too. So then I get r equals negative 8 and r equals 7. So, key. Remember, check for extraneous solutions. All right, if I plug this back in, I got the square root of 56. Oops, my battery's running low. 56 minus r equals r. Okay, and I want to plug in these 2 values there for r. So let's just plug in the 7. If I plug in 7 here and 7 there, 56 minus 7 is 49. Square root of 49 is 7. 7 checks out. Okay. What if I plug in negative 8? Here we go. So I got 56 minus negative 8. Make that a big plus, so it's 64. This is equal to negative 8 equals negative 8. Well, now, when I take the square root of just a number, an integer like this, will I ever get a negative answer? No. The only time you'll have a negative, like when we say plus or minus, is if we're solving, if we were to solve this. Sure, if I would get plus or minus 8, but here, we're not solving in this case. All right, we're checking for an extraneous solution. So when I take the square root of 64, no matter how many times I plug that into my calculator, I will never get negative 8. Okay? So unfortunately, negative 8 is an extraneous solution, and our only answer here is 7. All right, so that's why it's important to check your answers, because some of those times, sometimes they will be extraneous. All right, is it always going to be the negatives? No, that's a common mistake. It's not always going to be negative numbers. All right, so make sure you're checking your answers. Whoa, this is too much fun. Let's do this again. So E, holy buckets, E. So I'm going to square both sides here. And I want to realize that I'm squaring this entire quantity on the right. When I square V minus 3, okay, that is not V squared plus 9. That is not the answer, okay? I need to, remember when you square a number, like 2 squared is 2 times 2. V minus 3 squared is V minus 3 times V minus 3. And I have to multiply, which means I have to FOIL. So I have to FOIL these two here. And you get V squared minus 3V minus 3V, so minus 6V plus 9. So if you just squared here, you would be missing this minus 6V, which is very important, all right? Because that's going to affect, your answer. And then you would get something that's not factorable, then you would freak out, and then I would freak out because you're freaking out, and then we would be in not in a good place. All right, so let's make sure, remember to FOIL this out, okay? When in doubt, FOIL it out. Now, here we go. I would need a 0 in order to factor and solve, just like we did over here. I need to be equal to 0. So I need to put this in standard form by moving the 7 over and subtracting the 2 over as well. So I have a 0 here now. And I have V squared minus 8V plus 16. Well, fortunately for us, if I have a positive number here and a negative here, that means I have to have 2 negatives. And it's got to be V minus 4 and V minus 4, because negative 4 can be positive 16, but negative 4 plus negative 4 can be negative 8. Excuse me. So V equals 4. Plug 4 back in. 4 minus 3 is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 7 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 4 checks out. Whew. All right. So this is the only thing weird about this fractional exponent. All right. So the notation, if it's to the 1/2, if you remember from last year, when you see something like this, anytime there's a fractional exponent, I can rewrite that as a root, meaning this bottom number here, we call that the index. The index is the little number that goes in there. All right. The top number is the power of whatever is being raised to that exponent. So technically, that's 20 minus r to the first power. Okay. All right. So sorry I cut out there. My computer died, but got a battle. So anyway, like I was saying, technically this is 20 minus r, and technically this is the case right here. You could think of it like this, but that to the first power is not going to affect our answer. So I just leave it. Now, we're not used to seeing this 2 here. In fact, you don't even have to write the 2 there. Sometimes it could be a 3. All right, if that's the case, then you would have to write the 3. Remember, if there's not a number, just like here, there is no index, technically there's a little 2 there. All right, we assume that there's a 2 there. Okay, and then we just do the same thing we've been doing. Square both sides. Okay, when I square both sides, I get 20 minus r equals r squared, which means I'm going to have to factor. So I want you to pause the video and factor for me. Go ahead. So hopefully you factor and get r plus 5, r minus 4, and you get r equals negative 5 and r equals positive 4. Now, the positive 5 is, the negative 5 is extraneous. Again, I can't stress this enough. That won't always be the case where the negative is extraneous, so make sure you're checking. All right. All right, here we go. This one gets a little bit tougher. So I'm going to add this square root to the other side, so I have square roots on both sides. All right, and the first step is to isolate our square roots. Well, technically, our square roots are isolated on different sides of our equal sign, okay? I have one square root on this side, and I have one radical on that side. Yes, I can add this whole thing over. That is fine. I can move these square roots from side to side if I want to, just like I move numbers or variables, okay? The difference here, when I'm squaring, okay, this is similar to what we did there. When I had a binomial squared, I had to FOIL. Technically, we have a binomial, meaning two terms squared, so we have to FOIL. Now, this gets ultra messy sometimes. And by messy, I just mean just a lot of fun. Okay. All right, so when I'm doing this, I'm going to multiply here, I get 4. Multiply here, I'll get plus 2 root 10 minus b. Here, plus 2 root 10 minus b. And then the last, I'll just get excuse me, when I do root 3 times root 3 is square root of 9, which is just 3, right? I'll just write out what I just said. So if I did this, okay, I would just get 3. When I multiply a square root by itself, whatever is inside the square root just comes straight down. All right, so when I FOIL this out, I get all of this together. So technically, what do we get? We get 14, because of this 4 here, of the 10, minus b plus 4 root 10 minus b. And I get that by combining this 2 and that 2. And then that's equal to 3b minus 2. Well, now I still have a square root here. Okay, I still have a square root here, so I'm not done. All right, this is more of a more lengthy challenge problem. Okay, I'm not done yet, so I have to move everything. I have to isolate my square root again. So I'm going to subtract 14, add b, and add b. Okay, so I'll get 4 root 10 minus b equals 4b minus 16. Still not isolated because of the 4. So I have to divide the 4 out. Holy buckets, it's taking a while. And I'll get the square root of 10 minus b equals b minus 4. And now I can square both sides here to get, holy buckets, I'm going to have to FOIL that. Okay, so I'm going to stop this one. Okay, actually, I'm having too much fun. I'm going to keep going. Aren't you having fun? I can tell. I can see the look in your eyes. I can actually see the look in some of your faces that it's like, dude, come on, let's just be done with this one. All right, I get it. And I'm going to move everything to one side. I'm just going to write this out so that you have it. All right. I don't know that I would ever ask you to do this on an assessment because this would just take too long. Okay. Excuse me, not minus 7, but it should be b minus 6 and b minus 1. And that's equals 0, so b equals 6 and b equals 1. Yikes. Okay, so I lost you there. If if you plug this in and check your answers, you're gonna have to trust me on this one. The 1 does not work, but the 6 does. All right. That is a really long problem. I don't know if I'd ever have you do that on a quiz or a test. Okay. Your homework assignment. Okay, your homework assignment for today, or excuse me, your practice problems. They are the highlighted problems on that worksheet. Okay, on the worksheet that's posted. The highlighted ones. I think it's 1 through 14 evens. Okay, so it's only about 7 problems. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, have a good rest of your day.